And here we are. It's Wednesday afternoon, 3 o'clock. And once again, you're with Dave Williams, your host from FindYourNewNormal.com. And we're at the Coping with Cancer show, where we try to bring in lots of interesting guests and resources to share that help you as you deal with your journey from cancer treatment through to post-treatment and recovery and into a sense of wellness. Lots of issues that we all face, whether you're a survivor or a caregiver or a patient. And, we're trying to just, in a light, informative way, give you some information. We're getting some echo as we're talking right now. I don't know which one of us is getting people in the background. I'm hearing another male voice talking away there. So what we're going to do is just share a little bit for a few minutes, and then we'll bring our guests on, who's somewhere on the screen. I'm not sure on the replay where we each are, but Ann Funfa from Annie Appleseed Project is here with us today. And our host who will be with us once again is Haley Dubin, a cancer recovery coach who brings the perspective of what do you do with all of these issues that I keep raising as the cancer survivor, saying these are some issues we've got to talk about. Haley, what should we do about it? And Haley comes on board with her knowledge. So Haley, say hello to everybody and explain to them why I'm so glad you're here with me every week.
Hi, everyone. I am a certified health coach and a 18-year, this month actually, cancer survivor. And I work with people who have finished treatment for cancer and have fear around recurrence. And I help them gain confidence that they will remain healthy so they can fully live the joyful, vibrant life that's waiting for them. And, my approach is really nourishing the body through nutrition, but also the mind and spirit. So it's a very comprehensive approach, as cancer is a very, it's a disease that has a lot of implications and all that. So we're excited to say the least, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to it all. I'm amazed, as everyone knows, every week I sort of sit in this state of wonderment, even though it's been years since my cancer treatment program. There's just always things that are happening that you have to deal with, and your lifestyle has to go through a constant set of change. And it's good to know that there are people like Haley and other resources out there. In fact, those of you searching for a resource, if you go to the FindYourNewNormal.com, you'll find a coach directory, a directory of coaches like Haley that are there who tell you what they can do and how you can reach out to them and direct you over to their website in order to make things work out for whatever issue that you're dealing with. And that's what we're trying to do, is make sure we're the hub and matchmaker of what is it you're having to deal with, and where's the best resource. And between Haley and I on Wednesday afternoons, we try to bring interesting guests on and bring interaction from the audience. And those that are new to this platform, you'll see that we have a text chat along the side. Some of our guests we've welcomed in. Avi is here, and Ryan is here, and Jesse is here, and we've got about 30 people already coming in early in our session. And so we invite you to ask questions as we talk about the issues. And in a few minutes, we'll unlock the extra webcam seats and invite you on to join in our conversation, because it's a talk show. It's a place that you can raise your questions and get some of the answers that might make your journey a little easier to deal with. And one of the big issues that you've got to deal with is your lifestyle a change, and what can you do now that you're dealing with a recovery from cancer. And we brought on Ann Funfa, who is here with us, who has spent decades, literally decades. She also is a cancer survivor. And she decided to focus in on those aspects that are dealing with complementary or alternative medicine that helps us in an anti-cancer lifestyle change. So welcome, Anne. Can you share a little bit more about your journey and what you've been doing so that our audience gets a sense of what you can do with the knowledge that you're bringing that might help them?
Thank you for inviting me. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 23 years ago. I didn't know anybody with cancer alive, and I also was suffering from severe multiple chemical sensitivity. So at the time of diagnosis, breast cancer, I didn't feel sick, but I was sick from the MCS, and I had surgery, a lumpectomy originally, without realizing anything. I'd never been to a doctor in any meaningful way. I didn't know that I could choose my own surgeon. It was a fun time. When I woke up from surgery, I realized that there were things they hadn't told me that I needed to know, and that was really quite shocking. And from then, I started to really try to make a lot of decisions and go forward with steps. But as I said, the MCS was the key issue for me. I was reacting badly with headaches and dizziness and being in bed from any kind of smell, wet paint, cleaning products, people's fragrances, perfumes, hair tonic, you name it. It was really difficult. So when I met with an oncologist, and the oncologist suggested I start chemo, I said, I have a problem, doc. And he said, without even hearing what it was, it doesn't matter. And I thought to myself, this is my life. And here this guy is saying, it doesn't matter. How could it not matter? So I said, what, I have to leave. I have to go. So I went, and I decided not to take chemotherapy because I was worried about how it would affect me. I mean, I was in a situation where an aspirin would make me pass out. So the idea of chemo seemed very extreme. Plus, I knew that I had slow-growing cancer. So what to do? That was the question, and my support group was horrified. So I began to look into, at that time, everything was called alternative. And other doctors that I talked to said to me, well, it doesn't matter about exercise. Oh, it doesn't matter what you eat. Oh, I wouldn't do yoga. It might kill you. And your immune system doesn't matter at all to cancer. And I thought, it just doesn't sound right to me. So the first thing that happened that changed my perspective was that the night before my first surgery, I heard from a woman who was a breast cancer survivor, and she said to me on the phone at 8 p.m. the night before surgery, I'm a 10-year survivor. My entire life changed, my entire view, because I thought this was, later I realized that's like mind-body medicine. She said she was a 10-year survivor, and at that moment, I knew that I could survive. That changed a lot. So when I went forward, I had very good feelings about survival. So I changed my eating habits. I became totally organic. I became a vegan over time. I was taking dietary supplements of a whole variety, stuff that I read about, that there was no internet in 93, stuff that I read about that I thought could make a difference. I also began to walk more actively, although I lived in New York City and walking is a thing that we can do there. So I was walking. And I also, I thought the joy of life. And I'm someone who enjoys life. And that didn't change for me. I made sure that there was always something that made me feel good every single day, no matter what. And with that combination in the support group, I was stronger and healthier. And the women who were getting chemotherapy and radiation got tired, weak, and dizzy and nauseous and all sorts of problems. So they began to say to me, well, Anne, maybe we could do what you did for breakfast. What'd you have for lunch? Could we walk with you? What juice did you make today? And they began to try stuff, and it blossomed. People saw that it was helping. So I knew the things that I was doing that were so-called alternative became complementary. Complementary means to be used in conjunction with conventional treatment like chemotherapy or radiation or surgery. And for someone like me who did not do radiation or chemotherapy, they were alternative. But really, alternative is a crappy word. It should be holistic. And we really need to move that, because alternative always sounds like it's outside the norm, whereas the things that I started with weren't that abnormal. They were lifestyle changes. So that was the beginning. And over time, obviously, I realized I had captured some information that was valuable. And it became clear to me that I needed to share it in a wide way. And I worked for a company that produced business presentations. So they very graciously made 100 copies of the 65 pages that I typed up explaining various kinds of therapies that people could do. And then I began handing that out at breast cancer conferences. And then people started coming to the meetings that I was hosting in New York City with all types of cancer. And I realized that it was valuable for any type of cancer. And that was a good realization because I was able to reach out to more people over time. By 1999, someone suggested a website, which sounded impossible, but I did it. And that was the beginning of AppleseedProject.org, an all-volunteer operation to this day.
What a journey. That's amazing. And I think it's so important because you obviously needed something for yourself. Other people needed something. You were able to put it together and make a difference. Man, that is so important. That's why I love Haley, because she keeps telling me these things that I got to pay attention to, that if I only knew, it would make a difference in my life. And I'm glad I've met Anne, because now there's things that I find on your site that is going to make a difference. Is that what you're trying to do with the project, any Appleseed project? I mean, I love the name. Where did the name come from, and what is on the website?
So my sister is a poet, very good with words. My mother was very witty and clever, and the three of us sat down and brainstormed. And we worked all afternoon with all sorts of combinations of things, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, I always had the idea of spreading information. It became sowing information, SOW. So when I woke up, I said, I have it. This is going to be Annie, Appleseed. We're spreading information that's going to make a difference for people. And, it's a great feeling. And I was very lucky that A, I could recover, and B, that I could help other people. It's a marvelous feeling. I'm sure you both understand it. It really matters. I think if people don't have a project that's larger than themselves, life is not as good. And so for me, I was very lucky. And also, I was struck by things like one of the heads of the NCI, the National Cancer Institute, years ago said, we need to reduce the pain and suffering. And I saw clearly that complementary therapies was a really good way to do that, because conventional treatment up until then was really, hey, suck it up. We're treating cancer and you're complaining, but, we are complaining. And as the patient advocacy movement grew at the same time as I was doing my work, it was obvious that people weren't going to sit back and suffer in silence, because especially like in 1993, it was just the beginning of women with breast cancer, who were the first group to speak up about it, started talking. And then a lot of people started talking. And it wasn't like my grandmother said, cancer behind closed doors, not anymore. And because it wasn't anymore, we were able to speak to our doctors more clearly. But even that's difficult. And people still report, and I'm sure you know this, people report that they don't really want to tell their doctor if they have a problem, because they might stop the medicine and they don't want to do that. And, so they might talk to the nurse. But really, we encourage people to have very open and frank conversations, because one of the problems with people using complementary therapies or holistic, they might not talk to their doctor for fear of the doctor saying, oh, don't do that. Like my doctor said to me, it doesn't matter what you eat, it doesn't matter about exercise. We know that's not true anymore. And so we encourage people to download articles from our website. We have many, many articles. We're just in the process. It's, having a website so complicated, and it had to be moved to a different platform. Not that I really know what that means, but I know it was moved to WordPress, which is supposedly easier to use. But we have 8,000 pages from our archives, and I want them available again, because what they show is with natural therapies, we're not going to have level 1 evidence. Level 1 is a randomized multi-center clinical trial, costs hundreds of millions of dollars. With a natural product or protocol, they're generally speaking not patentable. And pharma, I call them big pharma, has many times said to me in public venues at conferences, well, Anne, we can't patent that. And that's the end of the conversation. But it isn't for me. I'm a patient advocate. I have to make it my job. It is my job to spread the word on this. So it can't be studied in the conventional way that FDA will go to FDA for approval, because that's $200 to $400 or $800 million for a clinical trial. So the studies will never be that level, but there's what I call a preponderance of evidence at lower levels. And when you have a lot of evidence, that needs to be looked at carefully. So those kinds of studies can be downloaded from our website, can be taken to the physician, to the oncologist, and say, hey, doc, what do you think of this? Look, there's evidence about it. Actually, there's a lot of evidence, but, it opens a dialogue. And these days, more and more doctors are aware. Unfortunately, not all of them, and you can reach a stone wall. But I say to people, if you would like to try something and your doctor is extremely negative, get another doctor. We are able to make choices. I didn't know that during the time of my diagnosis, but now we know. You can go to someone who's more sympathetic to your circumstances. It's very important to have your brain going the right way. You need to be able to make yourself feel well. And in fact, that's what Avi Lerner spoke about at our conference, and he's listening in today. And his conversation and his talk was about ways to make your own brain go in the right direction. Many people, I've heard thousands of stories over the 20 years of my advocacy, and many people have said that they believe that healing themselves came from their own brain, that they made decisions, they made choices, they made directions for themselves, and that made a big difference. And, we call this patient-centered evidence. I don't believe it's an anecdote when a person tells you their personal story. I told you my story. I didn't tell you all the treatments that I did. I did many other things. Many of things kept me strong and healthy. Very few actually cured cancer or healed me from cancer. But eventually I found things that did that too. I had 7 years of recurrence with tumors. And I'd had a mastectomy. I discovered you can get breast tumors after a mastectomy, which was quite shocking. Wow. But I didn't die. And so I give hope to people just by being here, because recurrence, I think we overtreat. And I've written papers about it, and I've had posters about it. I think we overtreat. We react as though it's the end of the world, whereas I had 25 tumors on the left side, 14 tumors after mastectomy. Here I am. I'm healthy. I'm 68 years old. I have the energy of a 48-year-old. Even my own grandson was shocked to hear how old I was. So that was a riot. But the information on our site is in many categories, because I believe, think about this. So cancer, to me, it's like rain on a roof. If you plug one leak, it's going to drift somewhere else and it's going to come back in. So, for example, the natural substance turmeric or curcumin, which is a spice in continuous human use for thousands of years, blocks 9 cancer pathways. Everyone knows this. The research is out there. It's on pubmed.gov, which is our Library of Medicine, pubmed.gov. Anyone can access it. And with that information, obviously, there's a lot of pathways for cancer. Most drugs that we've had block one pathway. So we're not getting the whole story. And that's why I think complementary therapy is important also, not just to protect us from the harms, but also to try to work with all the other cancer avenues for it to get us. And we have to protect ourselves. When we make, we live in the era of immunotherapy. Immunology is really popular right now. It was other things in prior years which didn't quite pan out, but now immunology. So if immunology is very important, it's also very important to get oneself as healthy and strong as possible. And that's another reason to support complementary or holistic approaches. So really it's threefold. And of course, for people who had not experienced cancer, and nowadays we're at risk 1 in every 2 men and 1 in every 3 women. So basically just about everybody's at risk. By changing lifestyle in a more holistic, organic, healthy way, they reduce the risk. There's no guarantee of anything, but reducing risk sounds to me like a great idea for everybody. And those of us who've had cancer, of course, can get it again. So we want to keep ourselves as strong as possible to reduce our risk of recurrence or new occurrence, because, cancer is not respectful of human beings. It's a really big problem. Or our pets, another issue.
So if you come to your site and you've got 8,000 articles, is it like a medical site or is it a layperson site? Can I go there and get information, or is it something I take to my doctor so that he follows the right protocols?
Well, it's kind of both. We have introductions in ways that regular people can understand, and then we have the studies. We often capture the entire abstract, and that can be downloaded and shown to the physician to see what the research entailed. But we don't show every study. That's what pubmed.gov does, and that's a huge site. We're a small organization with no real funding. We're all volunteers, but we try to show a sample of the kinds of studies and the kinds of research that exist. But people can put together an entire protocol because we have categories. So we believe people need to have nutrition, good nutrition, and that, to me, means organic whenever possible. Absolutely organic whenever possible. No junk food, no soda, no sugar. And when I tell people no sugar, they're kind of shocked, but no added
right there.
Sugar.
No sugar? I don't know, Ann. I'm not sure about that.
So, you start slowly. You don't have to go to the top immediately, but you start by reading labels. And when you read labels and you see how much added sugar is in the food we eat, and food shouldn't come from packages, because that's another problem. The only package I use is pasta. Everything else should be real food, real fruits, real vegetables, organic whenever possible. Now, people say, oh, it's expensive. But, there are farmers markets. There are buying groups. There are clubs where you can order it less expensively. There's CSAs these days where you buy directly from a farm. It's possible to do it at lower prices. And someone recently showed I forget which article, but we posted it on our Appleseed Project Facebook page. Someone showed that you can buy 6 McDonald's hamburgers, or you can buy 6 servings of a healthy meal. So why would you not do that? We have this view that it's going to be so expensive, but in fact, if you buy a package of salad greens for $4.99, you're not going to eat it in one sitting. You're going to eat it in 3 days, and that's so that becomes very inexpensive by the day. And you can buy fruit inexpensively, organic, positively. People who don't know how to find what's, if you can't afford all organic, there's a group you probably heard of called the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. And they publish lists of what's the safest foods, the most sprayed foods, the least sprayed foods, and you have to judge on that. But in terms of additives, when something has additives, it usually has not just added sugar, but also artificial flavor, artificial color, preservatives. And the way that things are studied, unfortunately for us, is one mouse gets one exposure of one chemical one time. Our human beings are getting thousands every day for years. So no one has captured that effect. And we wonder why we have so much cancer in the world, because believe me, we did not have so much cancer before. We know why we have more diabetes, more heart disease, more, because we're eating crappy food most of the time. And that's a really big problem. Until I had my own awakening, I had dessert every day. I had Entenmann's cake. It was very popular in New York, and nobody thought anything about it. We didn't read the ingredients of things. But once you start reading ingredients, you really can't treat your body so badly. You really need the tools. I mean, if you think about it, fruits and vegetables, those are the tools that we were given to eat.
But it means you've got to change the way you're thinking. And that's the problem that I'm stuck in. And we've talked about this a number of times on the show, is that academically it makes a lot of head sense to change your lifestyle, change what you're eating. You'll have the right results. And particularly if you've gone through cancer, you're already motivated that you want to make some change. But how the heck do you change your habit? How do you know where to begin? I get totally overwhelmed. And I live right across the street from Whole Foods. So I walk over there and I try to get I talk to people and say, what should I eat for dinner? What is it that really is something that I should pay attention to? And I get lost. And, so I'll pick up something rather than 2 steps to the left and I'm at McDonald's, and I'm really tempted to go over there. But I'm here at Whole Foods and I know this is good for me, but I really am confused and I'm overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. If I go to your website, does it say, Dave, hang on, here's the baby steps? Or do I have to, call you or Haley and say, don't talk to me about kale anymore. I don't like kale. Please do something else for me.
Okay, so here's great news. First of all, there are many paths to wellness. You don't have to be an organic vegan to be well, but we have developed a program we call 3 Steps for Health. It's really simple. The first step is 1 more fruit and 1 more vegetable a day. I suggest that you make a list when you go shopping so that you know what you want, and then everything that you don't want's not on the list. No sodas on the list, no cookies are on the list, no ice cream is on the list. You keep the list pure. The list is fruits and vegetables, pasture-fed meat if you can do that, free-range eggs, cage-free if you can, because they're better. I mean, the joke is made about what did they call organic food in my grandparents' day? Food. There was no spraying.
In the backyard, you grew it.
That's right.
No chemicals.
And everyone grew it during World War II. I'm sure in Canada too. Yeah. It was what we did. We didn't have lawns of green that we had to put pesticides over all the time. And that was healthier too. We have all these assaults and we have to counteract them. So the second step in our 3 Steps for Health is taking a walk. And we don't say how long, how far, how fast. Just be physically active. Don't have to be athletic. I'm married to an athlete. I could not keep up in terms of what he does every day. I mean, seriously, the guy's 73, plays ball 5 to 6, 7 days a week.
Wow.
3 hours, not going to happen for me. But there is actually evidence that 10 minutes a day of active physical activity, strong physical activity, can make a difference. You can dance, you can shake, you can jump, you can, stretch, you can do yoga. In fact, there was just a study about yoga for some other new wonderful thing that you can do. I mean, it's astounding stuff. Every day, that's the only thing. You really need to do it every day. But don't do something you don't like to do. I mean, I have a home gym. I alternate every day. I do something a little bit differently because I'm not athletic and I'm bored. So I don't do the same. I mean, if I had to run every day, I'd probably lose my mind. That's not me. But, people might find that to be the greatest thing in the world for them. Great. So step 2 is be physically active. We call it take a walk. Step 3 says take 7 deep breaths before bedtime in a stressful situation or before treatment. And what that does is, first, even me, New Yorker, slows down, feels better. It's relaxing. It really makes a difference. I find by the 7th breath, I've lost count anyway, and I've relaxed. And it really does make a difference.
But it's really just more than just eating organically. Like I can go across the street and I can get my organic eggs, which I'll do, and I'll get a pork chop, which is, whatever they say it's a different kind of pork chop. So I get that, and I'll go over and get some tomatoes, and, I've got an organic meal. But is that a healthy meal for me? It sounds like there's more things I've got to learn.
Well, it's healthier. I mean, I feel like there's no particular nutritional pattern in my view of 20 years of talking to people that is the only way. No, it's not only being an organic vegan that saves your life. It's just not like that. It's not only being, I always forget the name of the Japanese diet that's completely different, macrobiotic. It's not only macrobiotic. It's not only a juicing diet. It's whatever is the healthiest for you. And the only person who can make that decision is you. But if you're reading labels and you're seeing that you're not getting additives every day and artificial color and flavor and preservatives, which really human beings don't need, it's completely inappropriate. If you're not doing that, you're on a path to wellness for yourself. And of course, it's more than just what you eat. Those 3 steps are the starting point. What I really believe and what our website shows is it's also important to do detoxification, and it's important to exercise your mind, your body, and your spirit. Those things go together. I mean, we know it's absurd to think they don't when you know that the brain controls the body reports to the brain. They're obviously completely hooked and linked in every possible way. So it's also that joy and pleasure and not worrying so much because
Abby's just jumping in there and he's saying, the mind is an integral part of the lifestyle change. You've got to think right. And, so I can get rebooted, I can get my head around, but I still get overwhelmed because I see all these things that I'm supposed to know about, like have a smoothie, for instance, or juice. And I'm saying, but I didn't grow up with smoothies or juices. I like meat and potatoes. But, I can't do that. And you need so much fiber and you need, as you said, detoxification. And I'm saying, man, there's a whole bunch of things that I don't understand. I haven't got into a new mindset that I can integrate to my lifestyle change. And yet I know I've got to do something.
Right. So, Dave, you're re-encouraging yourself every time you say that you can't get into it. I would put up a sign in my bathroom. I mean, you don't shave, but maybe shave your cheeks.
I shave.
I would put up a sign. Okay, good. I would put up a sign that says, I am learning every day, a new direction. Yep. And you can. A friend of mine who had heart attacks said to me, I can't eat the way you do. I said, what? This took me 20 years. I didn't get here yesterday. I didn't get here the day that I decided to change.
Baby step.
It was a process. Right. It's a process for everybody. And that's okay. Sometimes, it's true that if you make a dramatic shift away from what they call the standard American diet or SAD, to organic. I
like that. It's sad. I got to use sad. That's a standard American diet. Okay.
I didn't create that. It's what everyone calls it. Standard American diet. It's sad. Definitely sad. But if you move away from that step by step, but if you do it suddenly, you can have a big jolt of nutrients bathing your body. If you only ate meat and potatoes, which unfortunately 16% of Americans do, right. They don't eat any fruit or vegetables, they're not getting nutrients because every color fruit and every color vegetable offers nutrients to us that we need. So you don't want to have a diet of just cabbage, or just apples or just tomatoes because you need all of them. They say life's a full color plate, and that's really what's important. So, I think you start slowly. I started with affirmations as well. I hang things up, you're going to be healthy. You are healthy. You're looking good. You're thinking whatever you need to get yourself started. I make a shopping list. I never deviate because that way at 9:00 at night, when I don't have any junk food in the house, I'm not going to get dressed and driving. I'm just not going to do that. I know myself. So that problem's solved, and I think you can find a way for yourself. And everyone can. But you pick your best program, one you'll stay with. If you hate the program, that's not the right program.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's a simple common sense, but those are things that people forget. I get calls all the time. I can't do this. I can't. I say, don't, adjust it for yourself. I mean, I call myself a vegan with mercy because every once in a while I want something that isn't on my usual program, but it's my program. Now, if I was having a chocolate chip cookie after lunch every day, that would not be okay because that's too much of an adjustment. Yeah. But an occasional something, it's fine. However, I must say I'm pretty rigid. I don't like to eat things that aren't organic. It makes me nervous. I feel like I can't swallow. It's just doesn't work for me. But it's possible to, do the healthiest best that you can and do well.
So you don't have to go all the way. It's okay if you've got organic and you've got a colorful plate. I don't have to juice and eat smoothies. I don't have to go all the way out.
You don't have to. You might want to over time. People do, but you don't have to. But yeah, if you go to the ewg.org website, you can find out which are the least sprayed and the most sprayed. I mean, if you want to have non-organic, don't get string beans and green peppers, bell peppers, because they're really sprayed.
And strawberries are the number one now.
Right. Strawberries and peaches. I mean, how terrible is that? It's terrible.
Wow.
It's terrible. Yeah. Terrible. So yeah, you have to read the list so that you see what's okay and what's not. But summer's coming. So for most people, summer is the time of farmers markets. So you can really access wonderful fruits and vegetables. I live in Florida, so our farmers markets during the winter, and we have the opposite. And I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was great. But yeah, you don't have to go to a direction you don't want to immediately. You may want to later. You may find that on your friend's cooking show.
Oh yeah,
that could happen.
When Ryan's on, we're going to talk to him about
that's right.
as well.
And then you might want to try that.
Yeah. I think adding one small change a day. Ask yourself, what can I do today to make me healthier? Whether it's talking to a friend that totally understands you and that you love to talk to and lifts you up, or like Anne said, having a colorful plate. I challenge people to go to the grocery store and pick 4 different colors from the produce aisle and add that to your diet. Add 4 colors every single day because those are full of antioxidants and give your cells that protection from free radical damage.
Now, I'm going to ask a basic question to you. Can I have any colors? In other words, if I like blueberries, and blueberries I told are a good group of foods to eat, can I put them with my pork chop?
Why not?
Well, you're adding...
Don't they use apricot or... Yeah, I mean, pork chops, right? Sauces. I mean, I don't cook really, and I don't eat meat, but I seem to recall that there were fruit things that went well with pork chops. I don't see why not.
So
to me,
it's about what
can I give you permission?
Like to eat? I mean, that's what I don't understand is that normally I knew what tasted good, so I just ate that. Now I'm trying to figure out all those things that taste good that I'm not supposed to eat. Obviously cut out the junk food, cut out the McDonald's, cut out the sugars. I get that part. But now I go to Whole Foods and it's very confusing. I mean, take something like tomatoes. I love tomatoes, but there's like 20 different types of tomatoes. And I don't know, should I get a plum tomato? Should I get a Romana tomato? Should I get a heirloom tomato? I mean, there's 20. I haven't got it, so I'll pick one and I'll put it there. But I don't know what the impact of that particular tomato is on my...
I doubt it's quite as critical as you think. I would, if you find one tomato that you like the flavor of better, make a note and you could buy that again. If you want one you don't like so much, make a note. But really, they're similar. They're just, there's some small differences, and they probably have some nutrients in one or the other, but it's not the end of the world. I don't see why you couldn't have blueberries with pork chops. I mean, it seems to me that's a fine combo, but, it's been a long time since I've had that. But I don't see why not. I mean, if your taste buds enjoy it, it's good. It's fine. I mean, the key thing is to have a smaller portion of meat, larger portion of fruits and vegetables, and a rice if you have that, or a whole grain of some kind. And it's important to do it organic if possible, because we live in a world with genetically modified foods, and that means they're grown with excesses of pesticides, huge amount of glyphosates, and those are really unhealthy for us, been shown over and over. I can design a study that makes it questionable. The study is, in 2 weeks, I'm going to see if any mice die when I feed them these glyphosates. Oh, what do you know? They didn't die. I better kill them because by next week they'll die. So you kill them in 2 weeks, but they would have died from the food, so-called food, in 3 weeks. It's a great study. It shows there's no danger in 2 weeks, but it gets translated as there's no danger. This is what's wrong with our food culture. We've completely lost track of what matters. We have so much cancer in the world. We have so much heart disease. We have so much diabetes. It's coming from what we're not eating and what we are eating. It's coming from our sitting too much and not being physically active. And again, you don't have to be an athlete, but you got to move. The other thing I would say that's really critical, everyone should take probiotics. That seems to be more and more important. There's more research now into what they call the microbiome. That's the gut bacteria. And we know that probiotics encourage the growth of the healthy, good for us gut bacteria. You know, it's so astounding to think that the easiest thing to kill is the good stuff. It's very unfair, but that's how it is, you know. That's how it is. If you have a sickness, the bad stuff grows like crazy and the good stuff dies. Well, you have to encourage it back. I take probiotics every day. I give my grandkids the probiotics. I give my friends and my relatives. It's a really good thing to do. In the current system, we live in a world where our food supply is a mess. And our job to eat organic whenever possible and to take probiotics, in my opinion, to be physically active. Now, detox is an interesting question. Juicing is a way to detox, but so is jumping a small trampoline, you know, so is taking a walk. So is far infrared, a lot of different things like that. There's a variety of things that will help the human body to detox. And we need to do some of that, again, because of the exposures. You know, pesticides are not just in our soil, they're in our air, they're in our water. We need to work with our body. So the wonderful thing about heavy metals, for example, parsley, cilantro, and or dandelion greens, leaves, are effective in taking heavy metals out of the body. But there's many other things that work as well. Chlorella, CHLORELLA, is another substance, plant-based, that helps remove heavy metals. And people should do that. You know, when I think of Flint, Michigan, I think it's astounding to me that we hear constantly, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do. That is not true. We should be giving these children the things I mentioned, either cilantro, parsley, dandelion leaves, or chlorella every day, maybe for the rest of their lives, but help them to detox. And there's other ways to detox as well that could be tried. Chelation helps to do that. You know, there are things that we have to do. We shouldn't just say it's hopeless.
This is getting very complicated. I'm going to open up the seat and see if somebody else has questions. Okay. I've got so many things, but Haley, jump in.
I also think what we're saying is that we have power, that we can take control over our health, and we don't have to, you know, just say, okay, this doctor says this, and this is what I have to do. Or Flint, Michigan says this, you know, our water's bad, we can't do anything about it. So I think it's about empowering ourselves to take a stand for our health. And you know, God gave us all this wonderful food and resources, and, you know, to help us, to help heal us. So,
but it seems like a complicated journey, and that's why I've opened up the seat, because maybe other people have some comments. Please join in or leave comments along the side, because this conversation is a really good. I'm certainly gaining a lot. Hoping you out there are as well. But I find that, you know, now we're saying, okay, it's got to be organic, it's got to be colorful. You've got to look at some of the better or more interesting ways of ingesting food, like smoothies and juicing. And now there's probiotics that you should consider, and now detoxification that you should consider. I need Haley. Haley, I need you as a coach. I need someone who's going.
We better talk right after this.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a plan. I mean, and not being facetious.
What it is. It's a plan.
But isn't that the obstacle? I mean, obviously, Anne has information. Haley, all the people I'm meeting on the show has great information. But we, the cancer survivors, are sitting there saying, I know I got to do something, but what? How? Please, where's my first baby step? Is that why when I went over to Annie Appleseed, I saw the 3 steps for health picture? Is that your capsulization of how to begin, Anne?
Yes, absolutely. It's small steps, but they make a difference. And when you feel better from that difference, you may wish to take more steps. But you don't have to. I mean, you can do your best, whatever that is. The thing is, it's only as good as the person's willing to do it. If you're not willing to do it, it won't work. So you do as much as you're comfortable with.
And those 3 basic steps are, because not everyone hasn't got over there.
The first step of 3 steps for health is 1 more fruit and 1 more vegetable a day, organic whenever possible. The second step is taking a walk. Doesn't matter how far or how fast, as long as you're being physically active. That boosts the immune system and our lymphatic system, which is another way to maintain health. The third step is to take 7 deep breaths before bedtime, tricky situation, before treatment, anytime that you need a break.
And step 4 is to talk to Avi, so we get our mind in step. Step 5 is to talk to Ryan, so he'll show us how to cook it. And step 6 is to talk to Haley, so that you got a plan to put it all together.
There you go. You got your plan. That's it. And then put some affirmations up on your bathroom window. You could do this. I know you can.
Well, yeah. I have made massive changes, but I mean, I get very confused. I mean, I am open and have changed my diet and changing my lifestyle. And I'm here to testify that to you in the audience. You can make these changes, even though you're awkward and you're not sure. But, you know, heavens, we've come through a Category 10 hurricane. And we've survived it, you know, and we're rebuilding our lives through the devastation that cancer brought to us. So this is no big deal. It's just, how do I get going? Because it seems overwhelming and confusing. I mean, if I can't even choose what tomato to buy, let alone try to figure out what I'm going to put into a juicer, you know, I mean, this is just beyond.
How lucky you are to have tomato choices. Just think of that. Cool. I mean, the thing is, people.
That's good.
Yeah, people need to start. That's the key thing. I mean, you can't paralyze yourself to the point where you don't do anything. You need to start, and you start slowly, and you start simply. As long as you start, you're on the right path to wellness. Many paths to wellness, many different choices. You have to. I always feel like there's no map for us, so it has to be in here and it's in your heart. And those 2 things resonate with, I can do this. This sounds like something I would like to do. That's how you start. Those are things you'd like to start with. And, you know, like you said, Dave, when we have a wake-up call, and that wake-up call is saying to us, do not go back into your old patterns. You got cancer because of those old patterns. You know, it's not a direction. Uh-oh, we lost Dave.
Yes.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, he gets a little stressed out when it comes to the food changes. Yeah.
That's funny.
But
I also think dietary supplements are necessary because we're not getting all the nutrients we need, and that's a big problem. I mean, our food supply is just so messed up, and that's why I take dietary supplements too. But, you know, everything, but probiotics are the key one. Fish oil, I think, is important, or flaxseed oil. Either one that people feel comfortable with. You know, so there's where I'm a vegan with Mercy. I take fish oil, even though I'm a vegan. I feel it's right for me.
And I think people who go through chemotherapy, their immune system's so compromised, and their, as you said, microbiome. I mean, I think probiotics are really important for someone who just has gone through that. And obviously talk to your doctor and ask them. But you know,
and our physicians do know about probiotics. They just forget to recommend them because they're being pushed toward it. It's not, you know, a big pharma happy drug making billions. So they forget about those other kinds. But if you ask them, they all know about probiotics. Many doctors have said to me when I've suggested it with a patient, you know, oh, that's a good idea. And then they'll give a prescription. And why not? You know, it's a good idea.
Right.
Just not top of their mind, you know, like it should be.
Exactly. Now, I know you were on, I was just going to ask you about Quest for the Cure, or The Truth About Cancer, the documentary. I saw that you were on that, and they just played it again.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, people all over the world are seeing it. My story is almost solely about chemical sensitivity and how I got better by using Chinese herbs that also managed to stop my tumors. So people with chemical sensitivity primarily are contacting me from all over the world. And I've written up some information for them. You know, chemical sensitivity you can recover because I have, to a very large degree, but I still carry a mask with me. I still have problems, and I am careful. I would not like to be trapped in an elevator with somebody with a lot of perfume on. It just wouldn't be good. But overall, I manage much more. I have to fly to meetings. I travel all over the world, really, bringing our message. So I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to tell my story. And I thought Quest for the Cure, The Truth About Cancer, was very interesting. The first session I thought was a little bit scary for people. But after that, I think it was better to listen to because a lot of different doctors gave their view. And, as I said, there are many paths to wellness. So when you listen to a speaker, it's just like at our conference, when you listen to a speaker, he's back, you just want to take what's good for you. You don't have to take 100%. You can take the parts that resonate with your mind and your heart and accept them. And everything else, you can say, hey, that's not for me. I think it's important to make those choices. I also want to say on our website, AppleseedProject.org, we have a handout that can be downloaded that talks to people about it's a listing of some natural stuff that helps to reduce treatment toxicity with chemotherapy or radiation. And that's really important. People should not suffer so much. And with these kinds of ideas, they can suffer less or not at all. Because if you do something as soon as possible, you can reduce the possibility of that toxicity. I recently attended the ASCO, American Society for Clinical Oncology's January meeting on survivorship, and the first one they ever held. I was there with 2 board members from Appleseed Project, and we were the only people talking about nutrition. We had a poster on integrative oncology. It wasn't much discussed, but what was discussed was all the harms that are done to people by conventional treatment. So because of that, we feel empowered to tell people you do not have to suffer so many harms. You can reduce the possibility by using these studied, not level 1, but studied ideas that are simple, natural, they're not harmful. Now, people can be allergic to something, and don't do it if you're allergic. And I always tell people, if you're starting any kind of dietary supplement, only take one, no matter what the label says, and never double up. And don't take an herbal treatment that treats exactly what you're being treated with a pharmaceutical for, because then you are doubling up. And you must speak with your doctor about how to reduce the dosage of the pharmaceutical if you would like to do that. So when I start with a dietary supplement, I take one the first day, I take one the second day, and I take one the third day. But I'm chemically sensitive. I need to be a little more careful than most people. But you're judging your own reaction. I have met people who are allergic to things that seem inconceivable to some of us. I myself used to be allergic to cucumbers, which I found laughable. And I remember complaining to my grandmother, who was not a blood relative, and she said to me, oh, I'm allergic to cucumbers too. So that was odd. But, it can happen. So it's good to be careful and start slowly with this. But otherwise, they're really not inherently dangerous at all, and they don't interact with the drugs. That's been shown in several meta-analyses. The ones that are negative, they usually say, the studies say, well, there might be a harm, maybe there'll be a problem, but, that hasn't been shown. If it hasn't been shown, and everyone's mainstream researchers, believe me, they're looking to see if there's harm. So if they haven't found it, I'm saying there's not really harm. Again, it's a personal thing. If you're not allergic, it might be worth trying, but never double up, never. Don't take more than the dosage recommended, because you definitely don't need it unless you're under specific doctor's care who gives you a recommendation to take more of something. That's very critical because, we're Americans. Sorry, Dave. But we Americans, we think more's better. If it says 4 in the bottle, I'm going to take 8. But you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't. Yeah.
Well, I know you took Chinese herbs and you went to see somebody. Did that help with your chemical sensitivity, or what did you find helped?
So what happened was I was at the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium in 1998. I'd already had cancer for 6-7 years, and it was recurring a lot. And I talked to this Chinese herbalist who was there, who had a poster about the value of Chinese herb. You can't, in conventional Western study, we don't look at the prescription, we look at one herb or an active element of one herb. But in Chinese medicine, they give you a prescription for 20 or 25 herbs. So he said to me, I think I can help you. And we were both in New York. So this was December. By April, I developed my 24th and 25th tumors. Like I said, 14 on the chest wall. And I said, I can't live like this, because my surgeon had already said, we can't remove them. You'll need plastic surgery. Back to my chemical sensitivity, can't do plastic surgery. So I went to visit the herbalist, and he was very nice. And he was working out of the Strain Cancer Prevention Center, which is where I used to get my mammograms. So I knew the location, I knew the group. And he gave me a prescription. I took it to Chinatown. I bought myself a ceramic pot. I made tea, and I drank it. Day 1. I developed hives over my entire body, and I was panic-stricken because, oh my gosh, But he had said to me, you should stop everything else you're doing and just take my herbs. And I said, no can do. I've been keeping myself alive for 7 years. I was told I was stage 4 in 97, so by 98 I was shaky, So I decided to do everything I was doing plus the herbs. So I had this very strong reaction. But 3 days later, when the hives went away, I realized that the symptom of my chemical sensitivity. Instead of being this dagger in my forehead that was make me have to lie down or fall down, dizzy headache for days, instead of that, I had some throat clearing, not choking, just some, and that was it. So that was astounding, and I consider that an objective change. Subjectively, I wrote down at the time, I felt like I was 60 to 65% less reactive than I had been 3 days before. So that was amazing, and that continued until now, from 1999. So this was, I started, I guess, May in 99, June. So, and then 10 months later, Dr. Wang, his name is George Wang, he said to me, "Oh, you can stop the herbs." And I said, I don't feel, I think I should keep going for a while. So I took him for 4 more months, and he said to me, no, you stop the herbs. So I finally stopped them. I had an MRI when I started and an MRI when I was done. And the MRI showed none of the 3.5 centimeters of cancer was still visible. Now, I was given the diagnosis, no discernible disease. But we all know that cancer is a tricky little bum, and it could be anywhere, and it probably is, but it's not causing me any problem. It is now a long time later. I stopped the herbs September 2001. That was a long time ago. Yeah. So I believe, I'm as cancer-free as anybody, and I live a happy, healthy life. And I stay on about 2/3 of my protocol. I've done a lot of things over the years. I tried many things. Many things made me healthier. Only that one thing stopped all the cancer. I had no more tumors, and I have developed no more tumors since then. So that's a success. About Dr. Wang, I happen to know, because I recommended many people to him over these years because of how amazingly I was helped. He's helped many, many people in many situations. It can't help everybody, and he tells them right up front, I'm sorry, I can't, the herbs won't be useful in your situation. But when he can help somebody, he really can, and that's amazing. Now, he's not the only person. Obviously, there's a lot of great practitioners. We're lucky, but it's hard for them to practice in the U.S. It's as difficult as can be. I mean, there's many rules and regs that are enforced against them, and some of the more successful ones really get a lot of trouble, and it's not fair. I think, again, natural protocols, level 1, not going to happen. I mean, it's kind of a closed shop with the FDA. To get FDA approval, you have to have a lot of money to spend, and the only companies that have a lot of money are the big pharma. And so no one else can break in, because who's going to spend that kind of money for what? It's very, very difficult. But again, there's a preponderance of other kinds of studies. And you can find them on pubmed.gov. It's not like they're hidden. They're not. They're available. Anyone can read them, including all of our oncologists. But, our oncologists, they're like overworked. I mean, they're paid well, but they work really hard. And they're overwhelmed with what they have to do. And there's what they call the gold standard protocol for your disease, and they have to offer it to you. When people say to me, oh, my doctor said I have to have X, Y, Z, I say, well, they're not saying you actually have to have that. They're saying people with your disease were given this, and they had a better outcome. But, if you really examine what those better outcomes are, in general, the standards are pretty low. I don't know if you've looked at some of the success drugs, when they get approved, they haven't wow, wow, what a drug. It's not like that. It's ooh. There's another 2 or 3 months there, and then especially with breast cancer, you have 2 or 3 months, and then you've got to take something else, and all of them have their own toxicities, and they all cost a lot of money, a lot of money. Pharma is one of the most successful industries we have, so that's a big problem in my mind. And I had a business background before I was diagnosed, so what I see is when they bring a drug to market, that's a business decision. It's not because they think, wow, this is going to really take care of. Do we have cures anymore? Not really. We have treatment, because treatment is the moneymaker. So that's troubling. I mean, here we are relying on this industry that wants to make money. They don't want to cure us, because if they cure us, we won't see them anymore. That's not their goal. That's a problem. I mean, that's a conflict of interest. That's huge, huge.
Well, I certainly don't want to see cancer again, so I want that out of my life. And I think between Haley and Ann, I've got lots of great information, and I see we're almost at the hour. I don't know where our hour goes. I mean, it just flies by on these shows. Any final questions from our audience before we say goodbye to Ann, or if anyone wants to jump on the extra seat to ask a question before we close out the hour? But
I wanted to mention that our website, AnnieAppleseedProject.org, is we're going to be posting in the next few weeks the next conference, which is March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2017 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Information will be up soon. Thank you.
Oh, yes. We want to find out what's next at Annie Appleseed. That's for sure. And I don't think anyone's jumping in with questions, so it's up to us, Haley, to ask the final questions of Anne, and I'll just carry on.
I do have a question.
Sorry?
Oh, I do have a question, actually. But, so I was just wondering if you looked at the emotional aspect as you were going through this, and you weren't doing the chemotherapy, you were just really doing all natural besides surgery. Did you look at that component, the mind and the stress management, and like Avi says, he talks about your subconscious beliefs, and did you go into all of that as well?
I felt all along that I was going to survive because of the boost that hearing a survivor tell me she had 10 years. And I took that in my heart and my soul, and I knew that I could survive, even though there were some shaky times. Being told I was stage 4 wasn't fun, but I didn't feel like they were talking to me. So I focused myself on helping other people. And doing that, I always felt like this is the best life I could have, the best life. And so that makes me, it's like a loop that feeds back to me how great it all is. And also, I was born happy. My sister and brother as well. We wake up in the morning, life is good every single day. And I believe not only is life good, but I can help make other people's lives good.
Great. Beautiful.
And my final question is to know more about the conference, because I got excited about what you already did. Is that something only for the professionals, or can lay people like myself come and learn something? Can you tell me more about who's invited to attend?
Our conference is focused to patients. About a third, a little bit more of the people are people with cancer right now. A third of the people are advocates, family members, and survivors. And the final third are people who are practitioners of complementary or alternative therapies or would like to know more about it. They get continuing education credits. But the talks are pitched in a way that the audience can understand. We have long question periods. There's usually 15 minutes worth of questions every single talk. Next year, we'll be opening with a 4-hour meditation led by Dr. Isaac Elias, who spoke this year, but he wants to come back and do this meditation for us. We also have a yoga class on Friday morning. We have a movie on Friday night. We serve only organic food and organic snacks. It's a very warm, friendly atmosphere. I'm sure that everyone who's been there really likes it. They really feel comfortable and welcomed and warm. And I choose the speakers, but it's kind of like, you have to just let it happen. And that's what we do. We just let the experience. We also have a Qigong. We have a Qigong master who's worked with us for years, and he comes in each year and just does this fabulous movement oriented. People love it. Everyone's up and at it. In fact, we have that video on our YouTube channel. We have probably this year, I think Sayer G, who runs greenmedinfo.com, is going to come. And he's a drumming expert. So after he talks, going to do a drum session. And people loved that when he was there like 4 years ago. We have some small amount of exhibitors. We have a lot of hands-on, a lot of local massage professionals and people from throughout Florida actually come and show techniques and offer free techniques to people. So there's a group that comes from the Gabriel Massage Therapy Center in Sarasota, and they bring their biomat and massage techniques. And we have Healing Touch comes. It was about 200 people. Tops would be 250, but we like to keep it cozy, friendly, warm, like I said, all organic. We get a lot of wonderful donations from companies that produce organic products. So we have this giveaway bag that's jam-packed. I mean, this year we had 3 DVDs in the bag. It was wild. 2 different kinds of meditation DVDs and a free movie from Food Matters group. A lot of great stuff. And we showed a movie Friday night about medical cannabis. This year, we were covering medical cannabis very fully, but there will be a speaker about that next year also, because Florida is going to pass in November a medical cannabis law, an amendment actually to our Constitution, which is ridiculous. It should be taken care of by law, but it's not. And, it's legal now in 24 states, and DC. We want to make people aware of it. It's not a miracle cure, but it's definitely one of the tools for for our use. And that's important. We want people to see there are many paths to wellness, and that's what our meeting always shows. 15, 16, 20 speakers, a lot of different issues, a lot of different information. And I think people really enjoy it. And next year, we expect it will be videotaped and put online as one of those summits so that everyone will be able to see what happened. And if they want, they can purchase the DVDs for the future.
Wow,
It's
this
March.
is going to be a
Yeah.
great event. Look at
You
all
should come
these
down.
comments. Says the food is amazing. I got to go again. I really need it. So you're getting endorsements from past attendees. And the big
Speakers.
question is, how far is it from the beach?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it actually is not far, but most people are committed to the meeting. But if you come, we don't have anything happening Sunday. Go to the beach on Sunday. West Palm Beach. It's not far. It's a beautiful area. The weather's about 70, could be 75, March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2017.
Oh, perfect. Mark
You should go to
that on your
AnnieAppleseedProject.org for more information shortly.
You betcha. There you go. Boy. Less than a month.
Great. We put the website there
Bridge.
too.
This is great. I mean, this has been a great, fabulous hour. Haley, wrap it up for us, and then I'll make my final comment.
Well, I am so happy that you came on, Anne, and I absolutely love what you're doing. It just shows that there's not one way to be healthy and to eradicate cancer. There's all different great remedies, and I think it's so important that you're telling the world about them, because there's a lot of people that don't want the world to know about them. So thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you. I mean, yes, indeed. I've learned so much. I'm still overwhelmed, I have to be honest, but I have more faith that I'm going to figure it out, because between the two of you, I now have extra friends who will show me, do this. And I'm going to ask some hard questions to Chef Ryan next week about what should I pick, particularly about tomatoes. I have this big problem. I really am confused. Thank goodness Whole Foods, they will cut one up and let me taste it, or I'll go over to the buffet and I'll test some things there. But, trying to do this is so important to me. But thanks very much for coming. I really appreciate it. It was a very fast hour, just absolutely amazing. And I hope you will come back and join us and answer audience questions. And we'll come maybe when I get a little bit more information, I'll get you on and get some more answers. This is so important. But thank you very much, Anne. I really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Me too. Thank you.
And continued good health.
You betcha.
And to you both.
Thank you. Well, to our audience, I hope you found it as enjoyable as Haley and I did. It was really a fast hour. As I say, I lose track of time. It's just so much good information and practical information. Please come back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. In fact, come earlier, because I think I'm going to try something new. I think we're going to try and do maybe a 10-minute pre-show with some information. I'm finding lots of my friends are producing new events and have some videos and trailers, and I'd like to start to show you what some other people are doing that you might be of interest in. So while we're waiting for our guests to settle in the green room, we'll do a pre-show, come in about 10 minutes before the hour. And I've got two things that already I found that I'd like to show you, because we can play videos now here on this platform, and get a little warm-up excitement before we get into our guest. And as some of you may know, Chef Ryan and Jesse are coming on board, and we're going to talk about Dave's food problems and learning just exactly some of the basic techniques, because Jesse and I are about the same, scrambling around trying to learn to cook, and Chef Ryan, being the expert that he is and the kind, gentle soul that he is, will gently show us exactly what we should do. So, folks, come on back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, or if you can, 10 minutes early, and we'll get into the pre-show entertainment. And then we'll get into the content with Chef. But thanks again for coming today. Really enjoyed you being here. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. So thanks for coming, and look forward to seeing you all again next week around 3 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday. Bye for now. See you again.
Bye, everyone.